Hey everybody, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. We've got a lot to check in on. It's been a week and a lot has gone on. So we're going to talk about the liquidation events that took place, lessons that we can learn, takeaways, what happened, where do we stand from here now that the dust is settling from the explosion, and a whole lot more. Learn how to trade stocks, crypto, and hype sectors with a global chat room led by professional traders, as well as daily live streams at chartguys.com. Okay, so first off, we're just going to talk a little bit about what took place, and it really reminded me about 2017. So it was Friday after the bell rang. I was sitting at the computer after just getting done with the trading day and could see things picking up a little bit, and I actually attempted an ETH trade off of this support, and I just stopped out because I broke and I said, just a little loss. Like, I'll try and see if it can hold. And then I realized what was going on as I looked at the altcoin list, and it was down 40%, 50%, 60%. I looked when Trump coin was down 72%. And so it was very clear at that point in time that a major capitulation liquidation event was taking place. As far as the headline is concerned, that's the least impactful thing or important thing about the whole situation. That's just the match that lit the fuse. But you put that same Trump tariff headline out, on a Tuesday afternoon during regular market hours, it doesn't have nearly the same impact. It was, again, just the match lighting the fuse. The fact that it was after hours means liquidity was thinner because you don't have the ETF liquidity. As soon as the bell rings at the end of the day, the ETF liquidity significantly shrinks as the market makers disperse a bit from the bid and the ask. And so, a lot of people have this association with market makers. It's just market makers bad. When in reality, market makers are essential for trading and for making markets. So it's not that they're bad. What happened, in my opinion, is sure, someone probably had some inside info that a headline was coming out. You probably had the bots and the algos that are part of the market makers. As soon as they recognize, and this has happened in the stock market before, but as soon as the bots and algos recognize certain criteria in terms of, high volume dumps, they pull their bids. They pull off of the order book. And that's when liquidity significantly dries up. And then you get the effect of stop losses triggering and then liquidations triggering. And it's almost like this cascade effect, of course, but what's the word? It's a movie name. Collateral damage. That's a movie, but that's the wrong word. Anyways, just building off one off the other. And if that's in combination with the order books being really thin, if you've got on a random altcoin, Atom, whatever, let's just say $300 million between the current price and zero is what's being bid. And if $300 million is sold into or forced sold due to liquidations, you're going to zero because you're selling more than is being absorbed. If I've got, I don't know a good analogy, but if you've got some, I've seen something go to zero, penny stocks, we used to call them trips, where it's, 0.003, 0.002, every tick is a 50% move. They go no bid, and then it's just on the ask. All you have is an ask. So it's 0 and 0.0001 because that's all there is. And there's zero bid support. There's no buyers. So that is what happened in the altcoin space. And that also leads to massive opportunity. And like I said, it reminded me of 2017, and it was fun just, going down memory lane because that used to happen a good bit, but to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it was happening much less to those two names and much more to the altcoins. And a lot of that having to do with bid support on these names from institutions, the larger market caps, etc. Back in 2017, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin would all do this. And they would drop, one of the proudest achievements in my trading career is outpacing the Bitcoin move in 2017. Generally, I underperform euphoria blue sky markets because I'm selling into the euphoria, and then I leapfrog when everybody gives back their gains by not selling, and I have zero position when the top is in, and that's when I stand out. But in 2017, I was out trading Bitcoin on the way up. And the reason I was able to do that is by scaling out into euphoria, waiting for the 20, 30% liquidation lower wick, jumping back all in. And that's what it was. I was sitting there watching this event, and it wasn't really sinking into me at that point in time, the magnitude. I knew a ton of people were getting crushed, but I didn't know at a glance that it was the largest ever. But it leads to a huge opportunity. And back then I would be going all in, and I was going all in with like 95% of my net worth at that point in time. And again, these are two very different scenarios. You have the people that are on leverage getting blown up. And when I'm going all in, it's only spot. It's only the cash that I have. I've said many times in these streams, I don't use leverage. I think my recent analogy a month ago or 2 months ago was it's like, having somebody who's been drinking, giving them a gun. There's very few people in the world that you would trust in that scenario. Maybe a veteran who's seen a significant amount of combat, but most people shouldn't touch leverage. That was my analogy. And of course, I've been bearish on altcoins for a significant period of time, but the opportunity arises when you reach a point where there's literally no one left to sell. You get a ton of forced liquidations. Of course, nobody's shorting on something down 60%. And the order book is cleared out, which means there's nothing on the ask really. And then you get the V-shaped bounces. And so the opportunity is the people that are sitting in cash. And so I always have cash sitting around, and I wasn't logged into Coinbase as this was happening, and I would have had to do, two-factor authentication. I wouldn't have had time. My broker was up, so I traded ETHA, and I didn't do anything massive. I ended up with a couple day maker win. And that's just because I was being a little bit more cautious, but the opportunity comes if Coinbase were open for me and ready to go. I would currently have the largest altcoin position that I've had in years. Why? Because I haven't really had any positions in years, so that's not a drastic statement, but that's your best risk reward. As soon as you realize that, okay, the exchanges aren't going bankrupt, and generally it's a 1 minute stair step. And so just looking at a couple examples, we're going to go through our usual rundown, check in on Bitcoin and everything. I'll take questions. Feel free to ask them. But it's the 1 minute stair steps that is your go signal on those liquidations, where once that is set, that generally tells you, okay, everybody that's going to has anybody that's going to sell or be forced to sell has done so. And so just using XRP as an example, the 1 minute stair step breaks bull at $2. And, if you're market buying in at that point, you're going to see slippage. But next thing you know, we're up 30% 5 minutes later. So, in the chat room, I was posting, there's a massive opportunity approaching for the brave, but it's also the kind of thing you have to experience. If this is your first time seeing a flash crash like that, you shouldn't expect to do anything right or profit or anything. Just like the first euphoria major run that you see, you get back a ton of profits. You have to see something happen in markets to learn from it and then capitalize the next time it happens. And so hopefully this was a learning experience for many. Hopefully not many of you were blown up or hurt too significantly. Again, I definitely have empathy for people that are experiencing their first major mistakes, but coming from a full-time trader, your journey is full of these gut punches, and you learn from them and repeat, and then don't repeat the mistakes and learn what you have to do differently so it doesn't happen again. And then you improve, or you fail at the game. Those are the two options. And, I made a post on Twitter, just a little video talking about how when people, call out market manipulation, I don't like that. Yes, market manipulation, there always is market manipulation, but you have to take responsibility. If you're deflecting responsibility and saying, I lost money because this person did market manipulation, you're not going to improve. You're going to repeat the mistake. You need to be saying, I shouldn't have been using this leverage. I should have had a stop loss. I should have done this differently. It's all about personal responsibility with trading. Every decision, if my power goes out, someone cuts my power line in the front yard, what could I have done differently? I could have had my stop loss. I could have had a backup battery pack. I mean, there's all these things that I could have done differently. Yeah, someone cut my power, but we have to take the responsibility and prepare for anything. So that's the lesson and the takeaway. And again, when you get that liquidation, that's oftentimes the long-term bottom for, you won't go back to that bottom for a long time. And so that's the hope for the altcoin bulls. Is that enough of a flush out for altcoin season to begin? We'll talk about that in just a bit. But first, let's start off with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's still just chopping around sideways. We did hold support. And the other thing, back in 2017, when I used to take ticker requests, coin requests, I used to have, people would need to specify which exchange chart am I looking at, because they were different. The prices and the levels were different on the different charts. And that's because we weren't a mature enough market where the bots and the algos and the arbitrage bots were making everything succinct across all these exchanges. And then as time went on, I stopped asking what exchange, because I can pull up any of the major exchanges and that's good enough. With what happened last week, all these different exchanges have different levels that we dropped down to. On one exchange, it's hitting 50 cents. On the other exchange, it only dropped down to 90 cents, just massive differences. But I'm sticking with the major ones, Coinbase and Binance. And we have a very clear range where we've got a very clear, more and more recently, if you're watching my content, I'm drawing trenches of support, trenches of resistance. They are zones, not just specific pinpoint levels. But here is a support trench on Bitcoin, and here is a resistance trench. There's our three tops in the low 120s, and here's three bottoms, 107s and 108s. And right now we're doing what the NASDAQ is doing, surprise, surprise, with a tightening range, although the NASDAQ is stronger. Right now, the NASDAQ is trading up right around here, trying to test the bounce high from yesterday to recover. I guess we got to talk NASDAQ real quick. This is a sucker punch. If you don't know what a sucker punch is, Google chart guys, sucker punch. But it's very similar to what happened in end of July, early August. It was a 2-day dump, bounce, higher low equilibrium, and then we broke bull and headed back to all-time highs. 1-day dump, bounce, higher low equilibrium. Can we break resistance and do it all over again? It's a very simple statement. If we don't break the low of Friday, we're going to see all-time highs. So the burden is on bears to prove to us that they can follow through. And right now, they are failing to do so. So that's a good thing, right? As far as bulls are still keeping control of the broader market for now. Okay. But Bitcoin tightening up. And after you get that amount of volatility, we know to scout equilibriums. And it's just the zoom out game. First, you're looking for hourly tightening ranges. And we knew to be looking for 12-hour lower highs to be the result of all the bounces in altcoins. Some altcoins did hit higher highs, Binance and whoever else. But generally speaking, you look for 12-hour lower highs, and then you look for 12-hour higher lows. And so far, that's what's shaping up. And then we zoom in to pinpoint it. So hourly oversold today on BTC and ETH is trying to shape up the 12-hour higher low. So when you have the backdrop of knowing the most likely scenario on a 12-hour time frame, and you're zoomed in to try and pinpoint it, it makes the probabilities a lot more favorable for you with your trading. And so that's where we stand. We got a 12-hour equilibrium on Bitcoin. If we break 116, we'll call it 116.1. We'll zoom out to the daily chart. We'll probably zoom out to the weekly chart at that point, or the 3-day chart or something like that. Let's just see, 3-day, 2-day. Yeah, if that breaks bull, I'll go to the 2-day, and we're going to do it there as well. We'll look for a 2-day lower high and then a higher low. You just look for equilibriums one time frame from the next, and you just keep zooming out as it digests our range. And so we're on the 12-hour, and when it breaks, I'll go to the 2-day. So hopefully the Bitcoin bulls can break 116.1 and have us zoom to the 2-day, but they got to follow through a bit from here. And the dominance chart, we laid out a couple weeks ago before all of this, the ideal path forward was a new Bitcoin all-time high, 130 plus, leading to a dominance bull move up, and then a dominance monthly head and shoulders as we get some alt season and alt rotation. Unfortunately, it's the other way that the bounce happens on dominance, which is everything drops and alts drop harder, but it is still a possible monthly head and shoulders. So if we were to drop down and break that recent low, then that's a monthly downtrend confirming on the dominance chart for the first time in years. And that's meaningful. And, Ben Cohen has got his theory that Bitcoin's going to lead again and dominance is going to go up. And then maybe we get that rotation into ETH and elsewhere. And that's definitely the safer way to predict things as far as just the most likely scenario. That's what's happened most often. But I am leaving the door open for the possibility that ETH leads this move and both ETH and Bitcoin head back up towards all-time highs. And the reason I'm doing that is because ETH BTC, I'm watching for that to be the monthly high or low. And we've talked about this. We knew, that on the dominance bounce, ETH BTC monthly consolidation would be happening. And now the question is, can we confirm the first monthly uptrend on ETH BTC since we topped out in 2021, which would be very meaningful. If we do, we're going to go to the 6 month, and this 6 month equilibrium, we've talked about this in some streams before. This is going to be such a beauty. If this thing tightens up into like 2027 or 2029 or whatever, it's going to be great. But got to confirm the monthly uptrend first. And my simple statement is, if this is the monthly high or low on ETH BTC, ETH is going to an all-time high. So I want to see a daily uptrend confirmed to increase probabilities. I want to see this level break to increase probabilities. So that's what I'm watching for. And I am still bullish ETH at this point because ETH is a potential monthly bull flag. In prior streams, I was talking about, we just went straight up 200+% with no monthly consolidation. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. But there's no red flags right now. I mean, look at the fib retracements on this pullback. Could this be a monthly bull flag? Yes. It definitely is on the table as a possibility to be a monthly bull flag. So that is what I'm watching for. ETH has my focus in crypto until something changes, and you can see its bounce is better than Bitcoin's at the moment as we're closer to the highs. But same thing, we got to break this 12-hour bullish. If we do, we zoom out to the 2-day. We'll watch for the possibility that a 2-day equilibrium tightens up from there. So 12-hour first. When 12-hour is resolved, we go to the 2-day. All right, let's talk about some crypto stocks. Then we're going to dive into some altcoins. Again, in terms of risk reward, that was as good as it gets. After, again, having cash and deploying it so that you are buying the forced selling. People don't want to be selling down there. They're being forced into it. And so if you're able, it's like, if there's a housing collapse or foreclosures or whatever, people don't want to be selling their houses. And that's when people swoop in and buy them dirt cheap. All right, so the miners look great. CLSK, look at that. Just fine. Didn't even come close to a red flag on the daily chart. Didn't even touch daily EMA 12. We're a daily EMA 12 rider. You want to keep it simple. Bulls have full control of daily EMA 12 as support. And CLSK is hitting, highest levels of the year, a year and a half, and it's all about 2472. If you get over 2472, you're going to be at the highest level in 4.5 years. That's very significant. And so the other, we'll call them classic OG miners, they're doing it too. Riot, daily EMA 12, more work to do, but again, trying to get back to the high of last week. High of last week was the highest level in years. IREN has been a beast, as we know, just insane move leading the way, hitting a new all-time high. Hourly back burner. It happened in extended hours. I was trading ETHA after, and the bid and the ask was, the order books were really thin on ETHA as well. I was not very comfortable trading it, but I took what I could in terms of opportunity. So the miners look great. What about our other names? MSTR. I've been paying less and less attention to MSTR because, again, my thesis ever since it topped out was premium is going to erode. I predicted that the premium top was being set for the cycle on that euphoria move to 500. And so far that's been the case. And so to me, that just means there's better bulls out there than MSTR. This is the time to be an MSTR bull. And then when the premium tops, there's better plays. It's just rotation. That was the play for months. And now the plays are elsewhere. BMNR, I'm still viewing it as an equilibrium. We broke resistance, but only by a couple percent. And on something that's moving hundreds of percent, a couple percent is nothing. So I'm still viewing this as an equilibrium. We're looking, bulls are hoping that's our high or low. If we can't break the 62, 65 range, should say 64, 65 range. If we can't break that, we're going to keep tightening up. But if we can get some bounce follow through here on BMNR, we'll be looking for a break here, probably right at the end of October or start of November. And again, in an ideal world, ETH is a monthly bull flag and we're heading over 5,000. If that's the case, we'll anticipate this will break bull. But that's our thesis. We constantly look for signs to indicate we're wrong. We're looking for clues to tell us we're wrong. We're looking for clues to affirm that we're right. You know, I can say it's a 75% chance that's what I think is going to happen. And then every day, every week, we shift that probability needle based on what's happening. So we'll see if the BMNR bulls can hold this base at 52 and get a move up, ideally 56 plus. You could be on the 2-day time frame to just condense it down on this equilibrium if that makes it more clear for you. But we know volatility is coming here, right? When this breaks, we're going to see a volume and volatility spike in a couple of weeks, perhaps. As far as MARA is concerned, with the miners, yes, it's participating as well, big bull move, but we want to be comparing things, right? CLSK, or let's go MARA divided by CLSK. And clearly, for the last 5 weeks, you should be in CLSK. Now that's shifting the last 2 days, but if this is just a lower high, like these other ones, it's going to stay CLSK, the better place to be. So I generally like to look and play the leaders. And I don't like to try and pinpoint, nail the bottoms of reversals. If we see something that continues to show us MARA divided by CLSK is shaping up a trend change, and if we confirm the first daily uptrend in months, then we'll say, okay, things are glaringly different. Now MARA is the better bull. But generally, I'm not trying to nail bottoms of relative strength and weakness. I like to play the relatively stronger name until it's clear that a shift or rotation is taking place. So this could be the start of that, but the bulls would have a lot of proving to do. And MARA has some work to do. Again, those other two names aren't far from 3-year highs. MARA needs 3409 plus. We need another 50% just to get there. So could you view it as a laggard and now it's making its move? You could, but probabilities are not in your favor. Still got a throat tickle. And you just got to be aware of that and just be looking for signs that, and also partial, right? Okay, if I want to put $10,000 in mining stocks, maybe I put $5,000 in CLSK and $5,000 in MARA to potentially be a laggard. You don't have to be all or nothing in terms of one name. All right, quick check-in on alts. A bunch red today, trying for those 12-hour higher lows. And again, just looking at XRP as an example, we knew the 12-hour lower high. We rejected right off hourly EMA 12. I should say 12-hour EMA 12. And look at its reverse backburners. All right? Backburners are great in breakout all-time high trends, but in the opposite direction, our hourly overbought helped pinpoint a 12-hour lower high for bears. And then hourly oversold, didn't nail it, but it helped direct us to look for the 12-hour higher lows. So I didn't copy the posts from the chat room, but that's what I was doing. I was saying, okay, we're scouting the 12-hour lower highs yesterday. Okay, hourly oversold. Bulls are hoping these are the 12-hour higher lows shaping up. And so now we just got these tightening ranges that are going to break sometime in the next couple of days. If they break bull, we zoom out and scout a 2-day lower high and then a 2-day higher low. As far as names that, again, BNB getting back to an all-time high, very impressive. So we're scouting. It could be on the daily here. We're looking for a daily higher low to try and form. So clearly differentiating, names that fallen apart, hitting the lowest levels in years versus names that didn't, or a V-shaped recovery back to the recent highs. CRV had one of the better bounces. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong name. It was a decent bounce, but got to confirm the 12-hour uptrend. If we do, we'll zoom out. And again, everything has a slightly different look to it. So I am just generalizing with the 12-hour being the best for clarity. But again, like on so many of these names, like DOT, like this is just a very bearish chart, and it has been for months and months and months. So we just got to keep that in mind as well. A ton of these altcoin charts are still very bearish. And so while, yes, this could be a potential catalyst for a shift, I would still be focusing on the names that didn't just hit multi-year lows. TRX held weekly support down at 29. It's not an exciting coin. It's been a slow grinder, but same thing with BNB. It hasn't been a change your life coin, but it's been a significant profit coin. So yeah, tightening ranges. I'm reading the chat room now. Thanks for the likes, all 63 of you. Okay. I talked about rotation between metals and crypto. Is that thesis unlikely now? Well, I wouldn't say unlikely, but we're just in a blue sky breakout for metals, a once in a multi-decade environment, and they just keep running. Trying to find the top of a blue sky breakout is extremely difficult. So much so that a professional trader myself doesn't try and do it. I know it's a low probability trade. And so it's just a daily EMA 12 rider. And the simple statement is we're going to keep going up if daily EMA 12 is support. When we lose it, we know something is shifting. If I am focused on Bitcoin and ETH, I definitely want the metals to top. Why? Because I'm not going to do it again, but in prior streams, I've shown zoomed out on monthly timeframes, fairly rough, but they align. You can find three or four major cycle shifts where it's just leg up, stair step move, while the other is consolidating sideways or consolidating slightly down, and then they shift. And that's plenty of examples to tell me to be watching for that. And so it is worth watching for. We'll look for gold and silver weekly consolidation eventually. We'll get it eventually, obviously. We'll look for weekly higher lows because there's a ton of space for it to form. Gold's been a weekly EMA 12 rider the entire year. But while that's happening, I'll be paying extra attention to ETH and Bitcoin to try and make their move back up towards all-time highs. Talked about MARA. Talked about the stocks. CRCL, I think I still have a runner position here. I don't like the look of the daily chart. I just don't like bull breaks with no follow through, and we just keep getting that. Bull break straight into a pullback, bull break straight into a pullback, and again and again and again. I played it back here and I just kept a runner. It's a bear flag until proven otherwise. So this is a classic bear flag. So we just got to be aware of that. It's a monthly potential bear flag. And bulls need another solid leg up over 160 to try and negate it. But next bounce, anything under 160, 159.47 is just a daily lower high. So the big question is going to be, okay, we lost the daily uptrend. Can bears confirm the daily downtrend or not? As far as risk reward potential, I mean, you're playing off this support zone. I just don't like the look of it. It just doesn't make me comfortable. Bulls can salvage things, but I want something in a strong uptrend where I'm buying the higher low. Like look at this cute quantum stock, right? Just running all day today, blue sky breakout. Look at this 5-minute higher low. Like oh, I'm so late, I missed the move. It's a pullback to 5-minute EMA 12. 5-minute higher low is the most likely scenario. and then we just head up for another 3%. It's not going to change your life, but 3%. In an uptrend where you have so much wind and probability at your back, trading with the trend as opposed to something that's potentially a bear pattern trying to save things. It's not really holding an uptrend, and I just so much prefer the clear, glaring trend play versus the choppy, struggling, whatever play. Yeah, definitely the top. I mean, the speed of the Friday flush had a lot to do with it not seeming, and of course, obviously, I'm not in any leverage or anything like that, but that's why it didn't seem as a huge deal to me, as it was just so fast. And I've seen plenty of 50% drops before, but that was more widespread for sure. Thanks, Gary. Glad to hear it. Again, it's, the advice that I give with the crypto space isn't going to make people rich. It's going to help you make money. The reason it's not going to help people get rich is because I'm not going to get you on the next altcoin that's going up 1,000%. But like all the people that just all year have led their followers to slaughter, there's of course a bunch of charlatans that I don't respect, that I watch and I cringe. But there are a few people that I respect who have been calling for alt season and all that. And I'm just watching, like, is there something I'm missing? Because these charts are not bullish. And so, all year I've been observing, like, knocking my ego down a bit. Like, what am I, I could be missing something. But again, it's just the amount of times where I've just expressed that I don't feel the place to be is altcoins, for the fees, for the trends, the lack. I mean, again, we keep highlighting the stocks that have been having the moves that the altcoin bulls are looking for. I mean, it's too late now, but the quantum stocks have gone 3,000 to 6,000% in 52 weeks. You've got uranium stocks going thousands of percent in 52 weeks. The life-changing gains are happening in the stock market, and they have been all year. And so, again, we just want to be focusing where the most opportunity is. And if we get an alt season where we run a couple 100%, it will be in alts for a while. But again, as I keep saying, I have a lot of experience with penny stocks. That's where I started for 4 years. Altcoins are the new age penny stocks. The majority are going to zero. They get little pops along the way to suck you in. You get one like Monster Beverage that made it and made hundreds of thousands of percent. Like that's Bitcoin in this scenario. And so everybody's looking for the next one to do it. Meanwhile, the probability that you're going to get one that does it is 0.1%. Again, I know I'm preaching to the choir for anybody that's been following along at this point. How does the liquidation event affect alt charts longer term AVAX? So how do we do that's a good question. How do we do technical analysis? So we care about that level that was hit. And yeah, a bunch of, it's a big setback. We've lost a couple months of upside. But again, look at this monthly chart. Topped out, higher low, lower high, bear break. I mean, we're just setting longer term lower highs. So until that changes, how did you that wick is valid to me. If a wick goes to zero, then obviously it's not really any use to us. But I mean, we held support here. This is the support zone. If we look back from the last couple of years, it's a wide one, 14s to 17s, but held it, and we held it again. And if things are going to shift, I mean, let's smooth it out. 2-month time frame. Break these lower highs, and we'll say something is different. Something is shifting. But until that happens, we're just going to keep forming lower highs. So that has to hold as support, and we've got to break 36.19 for things to be significantly different. And it's possible. That's worth watching as well. I mean, those trend lines have plenty of touches. Four touches of support, 4 touches of resistance. Volatility's coming. Right into the end of the year. At this point, we need hourly higher lows on these minor stocks. We've been going up all day. Yeah, we need hourly higher lows to have any kind of confidence in a good risk reward setup, because they've been going straight up all day. But again, they're showing us their lead bulls. The names that have fully recovered from the fear, the stock market fear on Friday: uranium, quantum, rare earth metals. Those have fundamental narratives behind them. Psychedelic stocks ripping today. And crypto miners. Those are the best recoveries. Check out these rare earth. Again, just 2 weeks, up 500%. It's just, it gets a narrative, it gets the nod from Donald Trump, and money just pours in to these low caps. So these aren't I don't make the thumbnails, but thank you. Do I think we have to close above the trend line in the NASDAQ to confirm that? No. So again, this is an important note for the way to mentally approach things. The bulls don't have to prove a thing. The bears have not confirmed a daily downtrend in the NASDAQ in over 5 months. If you cannot confirm a downtrend, you're going to go up. So it's when you're looking at a trend, it's the opposing side that has to prove something. The bulls don't need to do a damn thing. The bears need to tell us something is different. The bears need to take out support and prove that they can follow through. The whole point of the sucker punch is you're in an uptrend, bulls are in full control, they're just walking along, they got no care in the world. And then out of the bushes jumps a bear, sucker punches the bull in the side of the face. The bull wasn't ready to fight. It was on easy street. And oh my God. Now, all right, you want to fight? Now the bull's ready to fight. And this is the fight. This is the bulls ready to fight. Who wins the fight when it's now a fair fight, when they're ready? You know, you can win the sucker punch because it's out of nowhere. But when we're, okay, now I'm ready to go. And if the bears then win again, sucker punch and the battle after, they prove something. But if you sucker punch the bull and then the bull's ready to throw down and then it wins, we're going up. And the sucker punch is just the resetting of leverage. It happened in the stock market as well, just obviously to a much smaller degree. Over leveraged longs got smoked on Friday. Not in a huge way, but you know, you get back a couple weeks of upside in one day. It definitely knocks some way over leveraged people out of the game. Does Link show a long-term equilibrium? Yeah. I've been talking about that in some streams. There are a bunch of alts that look similar to this. And again, I'm smoothing it out because you got this action in there, but I just smooth it out in my brain, and this is just how I'm viewing it. So we're looking for a higher low compared to here. Maybe we form another lower high and keep tightening up, but yes, it is. I would view this as the equilibrium. And obviously, bulls are hoping that flush low is the higher low. And so the strategy for playing those flushes, if you're at the computer, if you got cash ready to go, you buy that extreme fear and people selling when they don't want to be, and you sell a little bit on the bounce, you stick a stop under that low, and ideally you're holding for months. Yep, there are a handful of alts that did recover faster than Bitcoin. Dash. Wow. I remember this from the 2018 days. Nope, 2019, but I had a friend who was big into Dash. We had Dash Fest. I have a shirt, Dash Fest. You could spend your Dash and buy tacos and beers, and there was music. Look at that double top, though. That's a brutal, right off that level. Obviously, that is the level. 70s. Got to get over those 70s. Glad to hear it, Daniel. Yeah, when you're with a group of others, especially the ones that have been through it before and aren't freaking out, it can definitely calm you down a bit. No. Solana is a faster, cheaper, and more reliable platform compared to Ethereum. Does that have any impact on your trading? Not at all. Not even close. Because that doesn't matter. If there's anything that traders should have garnered from the last 6 years, 10 years, whatever, of trading, it's that fundamentals are becoming less and less important. If you want to zoom out decades, sure, but GME squeeze, these quantum stocks, the fundamental bears are contributing to these moves up because they're shorting based on fundamentals and being squeezed because logic goes out the window. It's just big money knows that the easiest way to make more big money is path of least resistance, which is up in a blue sky breakout. And then you got a sexy narrative and retail jumps on it. And yeah, they'll come back down to earth eventually, and maybe things will start to matter fundamentally eventually. But the amount of time where fundamentals don't matter because emotions take over, because the automated trading systems take over and find the path of least resistance, that's how you make money in markets, which is why I use technical analysis, because technical analysis allows me to disregard what I feel is more noise and gives me the cold, hard facts, which is price in the here and now. The only truth in markets is current price. It's real, it's tangible, it is reality right here and now. That's all I care about. What I feel is going to be the next hype stocks. Cannabis is waiting for the green light, but you got to have the clear, concrete headline to go with it. Man, the environment would be so right for it if we could just get a rescheduling announcement and some clear Trump favoritism. Yeah, 4-hour equilibrium on futures. Definitely watching it. How do I like to trade flag setups? I look for a statement. I'm actually doing one right now. Metal miners. So I am viewing GDX and GDXJ as potential 4-hour cup and handles. And so I took a position today, and my thesis is that is the higher low or I'm wrong. So if low of today breaks tomorrow or whenever, I stop out. Stops close enough by where the risk reward's worth it for me. We got a double top. We got a bull flag attempt. Yeah, the metals are extended for sure. Definitely. But the risk reward was there. It's just that's so I look for a level where I can then make my very clear concrete statement, that's the high or low, or I'm wrong. That gives me my invalidation in the same sentence. If that level breaks, I'm wrong. I'm out. We'll see. Bulls need to confirm the hourly uptrend. So yeah, I'm not entering assuming a bull flag is going to form. I'm seeing a support level found. I say that's the higher low or I'm wrong. And we either confirm the bull flag and I get money, or we break to a lower low and it's not a bull flag and I stop out with acceptable risk. ZEC, definitely a strong one. Is that still going? No. But we're looking for a daily higher low, daily EMA 12 rider. Have we hit hourly oversold yet? Probably just got there. Nope, hasn't happened yet. Draw a nice downtrend resistance line as a visual guide to keep an eye on. Can draw a little channel here. Again, just a little visual guidance. A little wonky, not ideal. Bulls are hoping this is an inverse head and shoulders. Go to the 2 hour. So if this is a 2 hour inverse head and shoulders, that will set up the daily high or low. So maybe we don't even get to hourly oversold. Got close. But if it's going to be an inverse head and shoulders, that 2 hour higher low needs to form pretty darn soon. I'm definitely watching IWM, and that would be all coins want IWM to be leading. Watch IWM divided by QQQ. If it can confirm the first weekly uptrend, wow, it's following through. All-time highs. That'll do it. Yeah, we're about to confirm the first weekly uptrend of the year, showing clear rotation from the NASDAQ into high-risk, high-reward growth. I have some position. I need to reload more. Glad to hear it, Dan. Mining names. Yeah, take a little profit, you know. Not a bad idea. Nothing better than being in a runner position. You can't lose, just let it play out from there. Or at least have a point, you know, if let's just say your portfolio, mining portfolio is up 20,000, great. If we go back to 15,000, I cut it. Because the last thing you want to do is round trip. Because we pull back to 15,000, oh, well, maybe it's a higher low and we keep going. And then we're back to 10,000 and 5,000 and then you gave it all back. Nice. Glad to hear the super stack indicator is helpful for trimming into strength. I agree. Yeah, I don't have high conviction in the miners cup and handle just because the metals are so extended. But again, in this market environment, low enough risk to give it a shot. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Shouldn't be all the time ads. I don't have it on aggressive. Whatever the settings are, it's not on the higher settings. Mutes me? All right, I'll look into that. All right. Yep, I talked about CLSK. Not going to look at stocks. I got to run. All right. Appreciate you all. Covered a bunch of the stuff you're asking about earlier in the stream. 12 hour. When we get resolve on the 12-hour time frames, we'll go to the 2-day time frames and scout a 2-day lower high and tightening range. Crypto bulls want metals to top. Historically speaking, wouldn't be a bad thing. All right, appreciate you all. We'll be back next time. all my focus is on ETH, just because, again, I'm watching all the other things as well. I can't be fully focused on 15 coins, but ETH is my top priority until I get some red flags. Do good things. See you soon.